What's up, guys? Today I'm going to be making a tier list for fictional chefs and cooks and bakers and brewers. I know those are, I guess, different categories. They make food and drinks. Some of these are professional chefs. Some of them are just characters who are associated with the food making process. So we're gonna look at this, and I'm not just gonna rank them on just a simple like they make good food or they make bad food, right? There's a variety of different like tropes associated. There's the lethal chef, which is just they don't make good meals at all. The one something like one note or one dish chef. I'm going off of the website TV Tropes for this. But yeah, the one note chef has like one meal they're good at, um, and then nothing else, right? But yeah, no. And then there's this one's interesting though, the cordon bleu chef, a chef who does know how to cook, but seems to be willing to combine food that should never be used in the same dish, or in the worst cases, even in the same universe. And of course, you have weenie gelatin. I I don't know. I don't want to go to the Garfield page. I kind of would like to try weenie gelatin. Except for the fact I'm vegetarian, but I do make exceptions for new foods, right? To try them. I'm not hardline about it. But gelatin actually has like stuff from animal hoofs in it, which is really fucking weird. I forget that sometimes. Like, who invented that? Who was sitting around one day and they were like, I'm gonna take this stuff between the hooves and make it this, uh, like, ew, weenie gelatin. Okay. So anyway, yeah, some of them are going to be a lethal chef or a cordon bleu chef or just over specialized, which is justified sometimes. Right? Like, if you own a sushi restaurant, you don't need to know how to make grilled cheese. It could be helpful for just your home life, I guess, if you're tired of sushi, but no one's gonna fault you if someone goes into yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's get into this. So to start off with, we've got Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob SquarePants. Now, Mr. Krabs, he came up with the formula for the Krabby Patty. Either that or it was a family recipe that was passed down. We it's not consistent. SpongeBob doesn't have a continuity, right? But Mr. Krabs introduced the Krabby Patty to the general public. So that does count for something. But we don't see him cooking a lot. I mean, he is a capitalist. He has his employees do the work while he sits in his place counting money. He sometimes does some work. He's not lazy. But yeah, he there was one episode where Squidward has him act as a chef for a fancy restaurant, right? And Mr. Krabs, he was the janitor on the SS Gourmand. He was the chef on the SS Diarrhea. Right. So he ends up somehow creating life.
Run for your lives, everyone! It's the appetizer!
So Mr. Krabs is he doesn't do fine dining well. But if he was taught on the SS Diarrhea, he might be doing what he was told, right? He's following instructions. And he did, whether it was his own doing or recreating it, he did start the Krusty Krab. And he has a formula or a formular that is makes the stuff like crack, essentially, depending on the episode. I've noticed sometimes the Krusty Krab is just like a somewhat popular Greasy Spoon where people are like, yeah, the burgers are fine. It's more successful than the Chum Bucket. Oh yeah, I'm going to the Krusty Krab. But sometimes it's like it's the most delicious thing in the ocean. The secret formula is like you have Plankton trying to get his hands on it because it's that good. Squidward gets addicted to them, even though he hated the idea of being addicted to them. And everyone in town's like, the only person who doesn't like a Krabby Patty's never had one. But then you have another one where a guy who hasn't eaten in 3 days refuses one because the atmosphere in the restaurant sucks. But I don't know. Mr. Krabs himself, he gets some points for establishing a a, a popular eatery. But again, in the fine dining episode, he's not good. So I'm gonna put him in C. Okay, now we have SpongeBob. Now SpongeBob is the guy who's actually making the Krabby Patties, right? So you'd think he'd go in S tier, because I mean, as I described, they're the most delicious thing in the ocean. But hang on there, Jethro. SpongeBob is following a recipe. He's following the formula that's been there since before he was. He's following it well, but he's not innovative. He's not. He is sometimes. He made Pretty Patties, but then Pretty Patties, like they turned that guy's tongue purple, and the other guy was like, "Look what I got under me, guilt," and that wasn't good. Um, that reminded me, I should have put Shrek on here because Shrek was like supposedly the whole joke with Shrek was that it was he was living a gross life, but those roasted rats actually looked pretty good. I would put Shrek in S tier for Shrek. Anyway, back to SpongeBob. He invented Pretty Patties. He made a sundae in that one episode from onions and ketchup, but he did it out of necessity because there wasn't any ice cream there, and he seemed to enjoy it. He was playing to his own palate there, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's actually like good, like that adaptability. It looked gross though. So I don't know. He's not S tier, and we don't know. He makes good Krabby Patties. That's what we know about him. I'm gonna go with A or B. He's definitely higher than Krabs. Krabs needs him more than he needs Mr. Krabs, and he, the gentle laborer, needs to realize that. I'm gonna put him in A. I'm gonna put Mr. SpongeBob in A. He's also, to a fault almost, a model employee. He's nice with all the customers, although he sometimes with his antics bothers them. But that's forgivable. It's SpongeBob. Like, yeah, okay. Sometimes SpongeBob thinks that robots are taking over, and so he slaps shit out of your hand. That's just SpongeBob. Like, you can't. That's probably what the fish in Bikini Bottom say, like to people who are new, and they're like, that SpongeBob guy was shot me with a net because he thought I was an alien. Oh, that's just SpongeBob. He just ignore him. He does that. That's Squidward's that one sourpuss asshole who's like, well, just because you put up with it doesn't mean, like, Squidward does have a point. I'm like that with some people. If there's a guy who's sort of obnoxious and the response of other people is like, oh, that's just Ted, I generally hate Ted. So I probably would be Squidward. But SpongeBob, he's not like the douchebag who, oh, that's just whatever. He's unknowingly he's erratic. He's hard to contain. But yeah, anyway, SpongeBob is he's A tier. I'm gonna put him in A. Okay, now we have Plankton. Now, Plankton's food is so fucking bad that he's never had a customer. Of course, if he's never had a customer, who is it that informed everyone it was bad? Well, Chum is also dead fish, so he might actually fall into the category of like Mrs. Lovett and Hannibal Lecter. He's selling their dead cousins back to them. So that's not good ingredients, not good marketing, and he's not a good cook. Although there was an origin episode where it was revealed him and Mr. Krabs invented the formula together, but that was like an accident. And also, again, continuity in SpongeBob. That's uh, I'm gonna put him in. He's our first F tier. That's like his whole joke is that his restaurant fucking sucks. Now we have King Neptune. He can make burgers with magic. Now that might not be fair. Maybe we shouldn't count that because that might be cheating. But he makes the burger. He makes it appear, and it's adequate. Um, but it's not good. It's SpongeBob makes them with love. Neptune makes them just pops them out. He's I'm gonna go with C for Neptune. Okay, now we have Gusteau. We're moving on to Ratatouille. There are a lot of characters from this, as it's a movie about cooking. So Gusteau is sort of the inspiration to all of our main chef characters. He's a posthumous character, and he is he runs a 5-star restaurant in France, but his stars were taken away, and he apparently fucking died from grief over that, which I think that's a little butthurt. Not trying to be insensitive, but like, oh no, you said that my restaurant wasn't as good as some other people said it was. I will die now. Like, grow up. Like, it's one of the first things you learn as a kid, or I thought it was, that like not everybody's gonna like your shit. Who fucking cares? But that might also be urban legend. I mean, he is like a bigger guy. No disrespect, I'm a bigger guy myself, but he he probably had some health issues. And we don't know exactly how old he was when he died either, but he was undeniably a great chef. He has a whole cookbook. He has a whole life philosophy that influences all the characters. The only person who even questions him is Ego, the food critic, and even he comes around at the end. Even the most nasty character, Skinner, he's not going to say Gusteau wasn't good. He will try to tarnish his legacy, but he acknowledges that there is a legacy to tarnish. I'm gonna put him in S tier, because he's almost like a godlike figure. He's a fallible god, but he's a god, and he has that anyone can cook. People in real life are saying that. It's like the centerpiece philosophy of the movie. But this leads me into our next one, Remy Ratatouille. I think this is a case of a student surpassing the master. Okay, so Remy, to him, cooking is art. To Gusteau it was too, but Remy has all that knowledge and wisdom of Gusteau, and he builds on it. And he does his own thing. He looks at the recipes and he tweaks them, and he tweaks them well. And he's versatile. He'll jump from dish to dish. When another person fucks up a dish, Remy comes in and fixes it. He's an artist, and also think about, there are a lot of very talented people whose talent is never fully realized because the system is stacked against them. That's as life is right now. That is the sad reality. I hope that changes. Remy is that times 10. He's a fucking rat. Like, a rat in the kitchen. Like, it's the plot of the movie, I know. Like, a rat becomes a chef. And the fact he rises to, like, he has his own restaurant in French, the snobbiest fucking culinary place, like that's that's amazing. And I know it's a work of fiction, but in universe, it's like just as taboo as it would be here. Or maybe not, because I feel like in real life a rat who could control someone by their hair and make food he'd probably end up in a circus as opposed to owning a restaurant. But anyway, I think Remy is top S for now. He's a little above Gusteau, and that's how Gusteau would want it. He would want his successors to be even better than him. Now we have Colette. Okay, so she is another competent chef from the Rat movie. And we see a lot of she's like Remy's main foil as far as their cooking style goes, right? It's another trope, performer versus technician. Remy is the performer, he's the artist. He makes art out of food. Colette follows the recipe. You gotta do the cooking by the book. You know you can't be lazy. But she follows it exactly, and she does it fast. She chops those zucchinis like while giving a big rant about how she's not mommy, which I disagree with, but to each their own. And she also has like a fairly good philosophy. She also follows, anyone can cook. And even though she seems cold at first, she's willing to give anybody a chance. When she thinks Linguini made a really good soup, she's like, yeah, okay, bring him into the kitchen. And she gives him like some tough love tutoring, sure. But when she realizes he's going to respect her and her knowledge, she's all for him him rising up. And now she's tested when the truth about Remy is revealed. Because that did seem like a step too far, but then she remembered anyone can cook, and she stuck with her principles. And her and Remy, they had sort of a rivalry. Well, she didn't know he existed, but like she would try to correct some of the little tweaks he made, but at the very end we see them working together, and they're like a well-oiled machine. They both embrace each other's philosophies, because you need both types of people. You need the one who's going to stick to the recipe, do the cooking by the book, as Lil Jon said, and you're gonna need that person who bends the rules a little bit. I hesitate. I don't know if I should put her I'll put her above Gusteau too. She's also like Remy, carrying on his legacy. By the end of the movie, she's at the beginning. I'd put her. I'd actually maybe put her top A at the beginning of the movie, but after her development, yeah, she's right smack after Remy. Okay, next we have Linguini, and this is, I feel mean doing this, but his little tweak he made to the soup was so bad that Remy like exposed himself to fix it. But then again, he is willing to listen to instruction even if he's bad carrying it out. So he has a good attitude. He's somebody I wouldn't hate working with in a kitchen. I've worked as a line cook before. He's good-natured. He's very clumsy. He's not gonna disrespect you though, is the thing. And he's adorable. Getting along with people actually, I think, does play a little bit into this. And he's able to have a rat pull his hair and puppeteer him, which is actually a pretty cool party trick. And once Remy is controlling him, he goes along with it well. So that saves him from F tier to me. He's not a good chef, but he's not, I mean, he's an abysmal one, yes. but he's not a bad member of the kitchen staff. At the end, he's a fantastic server because he's good with, well, he's not always good with people, but when he's not nervous, he's good with people. He's very affable and stuff. Now we have Skinner. This asshole. I love this asshole. He's so funny, and he's such a dick. But he's not a bad chef. He's not a great one, but he runs the kitchen, and he runs it during a time where it's kind of failing, but he does have he gets the job done, and he has taste. His what he wants to do with Gusteau's image is sketchy, but that doesn't have anything to do with working in the kitchen. I'm gonna put him in B. He's like an adequate restaurant manager, maybe not a good one for like the best restaurant in France or whatever. All right, what's next? Okay, so this one might surprise y'all. The Remy's family, I mean, they're a bunch of rats. They're not chefs. They have no interest in cooking. Remy's brother doesn't really have like a palate. He eats to survive, which it's kind of portrayed as like pathetic, but I mean they're fucking rats. Like they're kind of being the rational ones. Remy's being the pretentious asshole. He had a job testing things for poison to make sure rats don't fucking die. But he goes, no, I want to go make food for the people who are killing us. So I don't think they're wrong for that. But when they realize how important this is to their friend or their brother or son, Remy's dad gets all the rats together to work in the kitchen, and they carry on like a rush hour or a night of dining, and they do it well, not because they have any like knowledge of cooking, but they're able to hear Remy's instructions and follow them to a T the first time. I can't, like, that is difficult to do. I'm putting them in B tier. They would be they wouldn't be good as a head chef or as an artiste, but they are fantastic at following orders and getting it done well. That actually puts them up here. I'm gonna put them above Skinner because they have a better attitude than he does. All right. And now we have the chefs. Yeah, they're interesting. They have some interesting stories. They seem good at their jobs. I'm gonna put them a little above the rats just because they have that experience the rats don't. Yeah, they're better than Skinner deserves, and they're a little better than the rats. But maybe the rats should be higher because for a rat's brain capacity, well, it's an animated movie. That's suspension of disbeliefs. We don't have to go into that. Okay, now we have I already did Neptune. We have Arthur's dad, Mr. Reed. I think his name was David. I haven't watched this show since I was a kid, but I remember like he was a caterer. That was his job. So he's able to hold down a job as a caterer. But from what I remember, he was always making his kids try weird shit. That's the cordon bleu chef, right? The weenie gelatin. He was always trying to give people weenie gelatin. But he knew how to do his job. But I'm gonna dock him points for using his kids as guinea pigs because, like, it's one thing to have your kids maybe eat stuff like they don't want to because it's healthy, it's good for them, eat your vegetables, that whole thing. That's good. But eat this gross thing because I'm an artiste, I experiment. That's I don't know. It's that kind of goes into like wrong place, wrong time, which docks him a few points. I'm gonna put him in B, below the yeah, I'm gonna put him a little below Skinner. He's a good cook, but he's not appropriate. You know, if I go into a burger joint and they give me, well, that's a bad example because burger joints are doing like everything these days. If I go into a pizza place and I order a pizza and they give me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, then like, what are you doing? Now we have Bob Belcher from Bob's Burgers. He's a little like SpongeBob in that he specializes in making burgers. But in the Thanksgiving episodes, he also makes some pretty damn good turkey. He's talented and he's hardworking. I'm actually gonna put Bob in S tier. Y'all might disagree, but you know, I'm gonna put him below Gusteau, but above SpongeBob because SpongeBob only makes Krabby Patties well, whereas Bob he's a good cook in general. Now we have Bob's rival, Jimmy Pesto, the pizza sauce. Um, he's like a realistically bad cook. Like a lot of bad cooks in cartoons, the joke is like, oh yeah, everybody got fucking radon poisoning and died from eating your shit. Whereas it's more like, well, this pizza's not that good. I think some people get food poisoning once. He's a good businessman. He's good at decorating his place and at advertising himself, but he's not a good chef. He doesn't cook as much. I don't know whether to put him in D or F. He's above Plankton because he gets customers. I'm gonna put him in F. I'm gonna put him in high F or low D. High F. I'll do that. Okay, now we have Chef Hatchet from the series Total Drama Island, which was an animated parody of those reality shows that were popular in the 2000s. And the plot is that a group of teenagers who are all basically like stereotypes, like high school stereotypes. You know, you got the goth, the musician, the dumb blonde, all of that. So anyway, they go to a summer camp, and the camp is made to be intentionally like shitty. And part of that shittiness is you have this chef who makes just really gross food. They do the whole like the slab of meat is crawling across the table. There's hair on the pancakes. See, he's like stirring the pot with his arm. So that sounds like an easy F tier, but I'm not gonna give him that because in some episodes we see that Chef is capable of making good food. Like if there's like a reward challenge, or if it's just him and Chris hanging out, he makes like these nice spreads, and they're not like the best thing in the world, but they're nice. And you hear this a lot of times that to like, for example, for somebody who, or if somebody's playing a character who's a bad singer, if they're a good singer in real life, they're going to be so much better at playing a bad singer. So his comically horrible food is actually a sign that he knows what he's doing because he knows how to subvert it. Yeah, the ethics are bad, but I'm gonna put him in B. Yeah, he's a B tier chef, even though most of his cooking is F tier, because it's also about intention. It's part of the crappy summer camp experience. That's his job. That might be controversial. I don't know. I don't really care. Okay, now we have DJ, another Total Drama character, who was voiced by the same guy as Chef, and his stereotype is sort of like the guy who looks like sort of like a big tough jock, but he's like a big softy. You know, he's like cuddling with bunny rabbits, and he's scared to jump off the high dive or whatever, and he's like super sweet to everybody. He's always like crying for his mama or whatever. And what makes him opposite of Chef though is he's a good cook and he always like cooks like one. He that's even like in the intro song you see he's like sprinkling stuff. I'm gonna put him in A, maybe above SpongeBob because he has more range. But SpongeBob, again, the burgers SpongeBob makes are like crack. The stuff DJ makes is just like really good. So I'll put him here. Yeah. So oh yeah, we have Uncle Iroh. That's not a good picture. It didn't crop right. I'm too lazy to go get another one. So we have Uncle Iroh right here, and we only really see him making tea. He makes some, or he at least eats food, which I assume he makes himself. But his specialization is in tea making. And he makes tea so well that as a nameless refugee in Ba Sing Se, within like a month or two, he goes from working at a tea shop to owning his own tea shop. He's he's A tier. I'm gonna put him a little lower, just because of it's tea, but he's really good at what he does. Okay. Now we have Iroh's nephew, Zuko. Now, Zuko, as sort of in season 1, he's like a bratty prince, even though he has gone through some hardships. He was raised in that, kind of entitled royal environment. So he doesn't really know much about how to cook for himself. Like, even when he was banished, he had a crew of soldiers and I assume like a chef on board. He's still the Fire Lord's son, even if he's disinherited. He gets some of those perks until season 2, when him and his uncle are regarded as traitors, right? So he has to like go around with actually nothing, and he has to learn to do some stuff for himself. And one of those things is tea brewing, because there's like an episode where his uncle has been injured and he's trying to help him feel better. And his tea is awful. His uncle tries to spare his feelings by like hiding his disgust, but it's like piss. It's tea. This tea is tea. Tea. So Zuko would be an F tier. But in season 3, he's the character. He's like touted in both like just in children's animation and in all like TV at large. His character arc is considered one of the best. He develops and grows and changes, and he by the end actually, like, you see him when he's joined the Avatars group. Spoilers for the show from 2008. When he joins the group, he makes them tea, and none of them like compliment it as like this is exceptionally good, but they drink it and they're like, "Oh, thank you." And it doesn't seem bad. So the fact he grew, the fact that he was awful at something and got better at it, that scores him some points. I'm going to put him in C tier because again, it's not fantastic or whatever, but he can do it and he can do it well, and he went to there from sucking ass at it. Maybe that puts him in B. No, I'll go with C because we don't see him cooking anything else. Yeah, I'll put him in C. Okay, so now we have, I forgot her name from Gilmore Girls. I've only seen a little bit of it, but I know she's like a perfectionist. She's like a technician, but she runs a really good restaurant. From what I know, I'm gonna put her in S. Maybe above Bob. I'll still put Bob up there. I haven't seen much of that show. But credit where it's due. Now we have Hannibal Lecter. I think this is the version of him from Hannibal. I haven't. I tried to watch Silence of the Lambs and I got very bored. Which everybody I've told that has told me that means I suck. But which I probably do. But it just was like a lot of dramatic music and like I don't know. They're just slow movement, and I have a lizard brain. I get distracted easily. But I know Hannibal in the show, they go a lot into his cooking. Now, cooking people, I don't find that ethical, personally. So I don't know if I can put him in S tier, but apparently he's a very good chef, and there's like cookbooks written based on him. So that's an A tier, I guess, maybe high A. And then we have our next cannibal, Mrs. Lovett from Sweeney Todd. Rest in peace, Angela Lansbury, absolute queen. Mrs. Lovett, she sells. She has a whole song about how much her pies suck ass, right? So Mrs. Lovett, her pies suck ass, but she blames the ingredients. The meat she uses, it's not good. Her rival gets by using cat meat, and she implies that she tried it, but that they're too fast. Uh, so so her problem is less her own talent, and more the availability of good product, which is proven right when she gets like human meat from Sweeney Todd's like Bloodlust, where he kills a bunch of people and then she bakes them into pies and sells them. And they're considered like the best pies in all of London, or the best meat pies. And so yeah, it's so she's not she can only do as good as her ingredients, which is fair. I'm gonna put her in low B because I really think her skills are about average and largely based on the circumstances around her. All right. So now we have Monica from Friends. I've never fucking watched Friends. I think I saw the pilot. I watched the pilot and I was like, okay, I get why people like this. Um, but I was always I grew up more with or I came of age more with How I Met Your Mother and Scrubs. Friends was, I think, like that was when I was a little kid, and I was watching cartoons when that was on, so I didn't, and I never felt the need to go binge it because the stuff that's leaked into pop culture, it's not for me. We were on a break or whatever it is they say. Like, I don't know. But I gotta give. I did like a quick Wikipedia search about Monica, just like is she a good chef or a bad chef? And she's like, it seemed like she was good. I'll put her up there with the Gusteau's guys. She's competent. She's good at her craft. If there are Monica stans watching this and like maybe I missed something, um, I'm not gonna apologize because I'm not watching Friends. Okay, now we have the prison lady, Red from Orange Is the New Black. Now this is a badass bitch, right? She's like kind of leader of the Russian group or whatever, and we see Piper doesn't like the food that she makes in the cafeteria, and sometimes it does look a little rough, but she also puts a lot of care into it, and she has her own vegetable garden. And at one point in the series, people look forward to her cooking. So I'm gonna put her in like that safe B spot where it's like, yeah, she's good. She's not perfect. Not for everyone, I guess. Okay. Okay, now we have Reese from Malcolm in the Middle. Reese is so his character at the beginning was like Malcolm is a genius from a dysfunctional family. Reese is his dumb bully older brother who's super destructive, early on pretty mean. The meanness drops and the stupidity goes up as the show goes on. But he's always like he has like this destructive, dumb streak. But his one thing he's good at is cooking. He takes a cooking class and just blows everyone out of the water. He still cheats to win, which is really funny, even though he had it in the bag. And the Thanksgiving episode, they do like this whole Birdman tracking shot of him in the kitchen. It's one of the best scenes on television. And he becomes like an asshole head chef in that one. He has his dad helping him out, and Hal's like, you know what? No, I'm done doing this. And then Reese gives him a taste of the food he's preparing, and that puts Hal right in line. Like it's almost like magical. I'm gonna put him in S tier. Like he has an almost supernatural cooking ability that makes people fall in line. And that Thanksgiving spread he made, that was outright food porn. It was fantastic. And here we have Chef from South Park. And he's a cafeteria worker who's friends with the boys, and not a lot of emphasis is actually given to his cooking, but it's implied to be good. And he has like a few recipes. He has his salty balls that are good. Yeah, I'll put him in B. He's good at his job serving cafeteria food, but it is just a job, despite it being the name everyone calls him. And now we have this guy. He's the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. Seinfeld's another one I just never watched. When it comes to terrible people shows, I'm more of an Always Sunny guy. I watched some of Seinfeld and I was like, I can see how this was a big deal back in the 90s. Yeah. Oh, men and women are different. I'm Jerry Seinfeld. It's the soup Nazi. I'm a B. It's B movie. Like, okay, yeah, I can see why people in those backwards times would have found that funny. No, it's fine from what I've seen, but I know about the skit where he's another example. Like he's like Reese. He's an asshole who is so good at cooking that people fall in line. But also the main characters on this show are they're bad people, so we don't know if he has that effect on everybody. I'm gonna put him in high A. He's also he doesn't have good restaurant practices. He bans people if they don't order things right. Maybe that's a New York thing where you can get away with that, but that just doesn't sound pragmatic. And I don't know. Soup Nazi is one of those things where it was funny at first, but like it's like Monty Python. Unfunny people keep repeating it, and it just gets old. Like it just those guys who just will always be like, it's only a flesh wound. Like, yeah, it was a funny bit. You're not funny though. You're ruining it. Like, okay. So now we have this is a lesser known show, I think, as far as those shows that people are like, you remember SpongeBob SquarePants and how funny that was? Do you remember Fairly Odd Parents? Like, yeah, we know, we watched it, but this I actually don't hear people talking about The Weekenders as much. It was about a group of kids, and instead of focusing on like what they did in school, it always focused on them hanging out on a weekend. And it was these kids lived in a fun ass town. It was like on a boardwalk, I think, and they had an amusement park. They had a pizza place that was a different like genre or a theme every episode. And the show actually had like I guess they were really trying to be sort of modern and mature, because they'd have the kids talking to their parents, and they'd go into things like divorce and like Tino would ask advice from his mom and she would give him like I rewatched some episodes and it was actually like good three-dimensional life advice as opposed to like generic just be yourself stuff. Like she tells him in one episode to be like not to try to change who he is just for a girl to like him. And he's like, "So if I'm myself, girls are all going to like me?" And she's like, "No." She's like, "The right girl will like you." Which I think a lot of guys need to fucking hear at a young age. Like I'm being myself. Okay, yourself smells bad. You can be yourself and wear deodorant. And you're not entitled to somebody liking you back. Also, I don't know. Tino's mom, she was kind of a baddie. Anyway, I put her on the list because there's a running gag in every episode where Tino's mom makes some like weird ass concoction, like liver and tofu or something, and it's like that cordon bleu thing again. Like, why are you combining this? I think she's implied to be like sort of a low key like counterculture, but older. Like she's integrated into the suburbs and she has a career. She has like an ex-husband she jokes about, but her in the Christmas episode, her and Tino celebrate the winter solstice. So she's got like that witchy neo-pagan, not the racist kind thing going on, as far as we know. Not the racist kind. And she always is making like these weird vegetarian meals. And her son repeatedly expresses like I don't really like this, and she ignores it. I don't know if she's like a horrible lethal chef, but I'm putting her in low D because like her food sounds unappealing. I'm sorry. I love the character though. She is kind of a baddie. I would power through those meals, but it's not about that. All right. So now we have if y'all have seen that show Between the Lions, it was a kids show that taught kids about like it was an emphasis on reading and spelling. So it was kind of like Sesame Street. It was a Jim Henson thing. A lot of episodes were actually filmed in my home state, Mississippi, which is kind of cool. But it was about this family of lions who ran a local library. And it was like a combination of puppets and humans in this setting, and they'd have like skits and segments, and they'd have a main story that took place in the library. And they'd read from real life books, and then they'd have in-universe books and sketches where they sounded out words. And I really liked it as a kid. It was fun, but there was one sketch that was based on like cooking shows where the two main lions, the main couple, they were like Cleo and Leo, I think. It's been a while, but they would follow a recipe, and of course they'd be like sounding out the words and all that. And they were very simple recipes, but the sketch would always end with like, you got to put it in the oven for 2 hours, and they're like, 2 hours? Nah. And then they eat the shit raw. I mean, they are lions. There was one where it was like 2 minutes, and that was too much time for them. So I don't think they're rankable. They don't finish the job. I can't put them in any tier. It looked like they followed the instructions okay up to the cooking part. But yeah, I don't know. Okay, now we have another puppet, the Swedish Chef. Look, I love you, man. I love the Swedish Chef. He's so funny. Whatever. But the man cannot cook. He's like throwing shit around, chasing chickens. He's like, what are you doing? What are you doing, motherfucker? No. he, like, no, he's not a good chef. Why do they have him hosting a show on it? I mean, because it's funny, but okay. Now we have Poe's dad from Kung Fu Panda, and he owns a noodle shop, and he cooks like the special ingredient noodles. So he's very good at marketing, but he's also just good at making food. Um, he might be S tier. I'm gonna put him in low S. I have a lot of S tier. I feel like that might diminish S tier as a thing. Like maybe S is supposed to be like, I don't know. Maybe I should move some of these guys down to A. Like the ones who aren't supernaturally good. Gusteau, I don't want to do this. Gusteau might kill himself if I don't give him the highest rank though, because yeah, he's sensitive about that. Reese gets high up because he's I mean, Remy is a rat who can cook. Reese is supernaturally like gets people to fall in line. I'm still putting him after Colette because I don't want to get called sexist. The woke SJW mob's gonna come after me. Okay, now we have Hot Pie from Game of Thrones. He's another example, like Zuko, of somebody who gets better with time. But he has a natural gift for it from the beginning, and he makes like pastries. He bakes. I'm gonna put him above Mrs. Lovett because he's not killing people to do it. I know I put Hannibal up here, but like his stuff looks really really good. Uh, I might put Chef Hatchet lower. I'm putting him above Mrs. Lovett on B tier, but no, because he's not killing people for it. But I mean, he can make good food, but we're gonna go with ethics. If we're adding ethics into it, then no.
And I'm coming back in a few hours later because there were a couple that I forgot that I feel like are important. So you have Mung, who is the chef mentor from Chowder. His whole thing is like he's a superb chef or whatever. And I didn't get into Chowder because I'm a little bitch and I thought the character designs were really creepy. They freaked me the fuck out. That whole era of Cartoon Network, it was like, let's see how gross we can be on this fucking kids channel. Like I get weird designs are fun, ugly designs, some creep out humor, but that late 2000s era, it felt like they wanted to do like gross close-ups and ugly ass characters. People bitch about CalArts. And yeah, CalArts is a little annoying, like the whole like, oh, I'm gonna squeeze my cheeks and be all cutesy. Like, yeah, that's a little irritating, but it's better than this shit. I don't, you know, but in the universe of Chowder, he was like a good chef who owned his restaurant. He was like a mentor, so I'll put him in A. And then last we have Oscar Proud from the Proud family. This man got no respect. Like, yeah, he could be kind of brash at times, but I felt like he didn't deserve like half the bad shit that happened to him. Like, people were so mean to him. He was just trying to like provide for his family. That being said, the snacks that he made were like causing people's heads to explode and shit. He goes in F tier. I'm sorry, dude. Um, so yeah, that's the tier list. I've got a few more down here, but they're just copies because I uploaded doubles, I guess, of things. And then Cleo and Leo, maybe I will. I'm not placing them. All right. So that has been the fictional chef tier list. Thank y'all for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want more. Go to the comments if there are any significant fictional chefs that I forgot. All right.